we're going to try to take the work we did with one ball in the body, where the ball was just going back and forth, and we counted to 3, 1, 2, 3, and we were moving the body in relationship to that. We're going to try to take the same concept and do it with 2 balls instead of 1. And again, with 1 ball, I tried to pick the most simple juggling I could think of. So I chose that for them. I mean, we could have used this or something else, but for now, let's just say the simplest juggling, if you just agree with me, to get the concept across, I'm just going to do a simple throw. It means when I take 2 balls, I play the same game. I don't have to make it any more complicated, and I say, what's the most simple starting point I can do when I have 2 balls? So again, for me, I chose to interpret that as saying that, for example, the ball is just going to go straight up and down. I'm not even going to do the cross or the exchange. So for now, I'm just going to say the most simple 2 ball thing I can do is this. And then after I do this, in the same way with the 1 ball, I threw the ball and I was counting to 3, and then I said, don't stop. That we try to have the ball always 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, like that it kept going through the air in a steady rhythm. And the same thing we did in our warm-up today, in the way that we wanted the 1 ball when we try to do the sequence on each side alone, that the ball never stopped moving, and we try to do the sequence really fast. In the same way now, we have the technique here, and there's absolutely no rhythm imposed upon it from the physical technique. It means the rhythm that I want to keep, if I want one, it has to be from inside of me, internal rhythm. Or I can say a forced rhythm, because it's not natural. I mean, in the exchange, we have a natural rhythm that you want to throw that next ball, because the first ball's coming in. But now, since the balls have separated, I have no need. But let's take an image and say that with a rhythm, we want to say that when 1 ball is always up, the other ball is always down, and the opposite of that. So go ahead and try. We just have the balls go straight up and down, but always keep them in opposition of each other. And it can be whatever height you want or whatever speed you want. But really try to think as accurately as you can that when one reaches the top, the other is on the catch. And then the opposite of that. And it has to be really accurate as you can. Especially now because it's so simple. And already from the beginning you can see that when you go higher, it goes slower, which of course is obvious. Really try to keep them opposite. And then try to go lower, as low as you can, and keep them opposite. And then go back up to a height that you find comfortable. And that would be the height that you can work at. We don't all have to be the same timing, so just whatever height you find naturally comfortable. And you can just keep this going as I talk, and follow along with me. So just keep your juggling going, if you can. And the first thing we'll do is, the first thing we do with 1 ball, is just to turn the hands under, to turn the hand towards the floor under the throw. And again, you can say that you're, whatever, playing the piano or Facebooking, whatever you need to say, or just turning the hand over to the floor. And if you stop for a second, it's the same thing which we did with 1 ball, which was with 1 ball, we have a lot of time in the technique. We have a lot of room. When I throw the ball, I can really turn that hand over and take my time. And when I catch the ball here, the hand can just kind of hang out for a bit and then turn back over when I want. But we wanted to try to be really accurate, that the timing was right. The same thing here now. You guys have really nice rhythm with the balls going opposite each other. And now it's the same thing. Underneath that throw, I really want to turn the hand over and then wait as long as I can to turn it back. Because now we have the chance to take this time and make this very accurate. Later on, we're going to do these combinations where we're going to benefit from the extra time that we save when we practice it now. So when you're doing this really sharp movements and as accurate as you can. So try it one more time and try to really pay attention to the rhythm. And then keep going, and we're just going to take the second movement we did with 1 ball, which was the high 5, or however you want to call it. Remember, this was the move we did with 1 ball on count number 2. Now we're not counting the 3, we're not counting anything. We're just thinking up, 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 on your own rhythm, and you're trying to put the hand And again, if you look really fast, there's a couple different styles, a couple different ways to do this. The first way is, of course, to take it in one movement. That the hand, as it throws, it comes up here and then comes back down. Or you can try to take it as two movements, or actually three, right, with the catch. 1, 2, 3, if you want to think in that way and talking about the movements of the hand. Or then it's more like that. So try both ways. Obviously, the throw turning into the high five is easier. It's harder to do the other extra movements, but try them out while we're here, while we have time. And it's not so hard yet. And try to keep your same rhythm, so don't lose the opposition of the balls just because the extra movements are harder. Okay, so go back to the basic pattern. And now we're just going to do the pointing, the same thing we had with the one ball. So just point straight up and down, point to the ball that you threw with each hand. And again, you can be as accurate with your pointing as you want. If you really want to try to follow the ball, that's fine. But just notice that your rhythm stays the same. If you try to follow more closely, don't slow down. Great. So now let's take those first three movements, and I'm just going to put these on the floor. You can hold on to yours. I'm just going to show you without the balls. We're going to take the first three movements and do them in a combination. So the first one we're going to do after a throw is we're going to turn the hand over to the ground, the first thing we did today, with this. And then after that, the next throw is going to be the high five. And then after that, number 3 is going to be the pointing straight up and down. So we have 1, 2, 3. And then it goes on the other side, because we're using both hands, and we have a 3-beat pattern, so it's going to repeat on the other side. So I have down, high five, point, down, high five, point, down, high five, point. And again, because our rhythm of what we're doing for now is only from inside of us, there's no technical reason why I'm juggling so fast other than I want to. It means when you're learning this pattern, you can go slow until you understand it. So you can just go really slowly if you want. You can say down, and then high five, and then point. Down, high five, point. And then after a while, you can put your rhythm back. Point, down, high five, point, down, high five, point. Okay? So try it out slow if you need to, and then work your way up to the regular speed. Great, that's good. So let's keep going, and we're going to go back to this pointing one. And we can start pointing off like normal, and then after that, try to point on the side. So go ahead and try this one while you're juggling. You're just going to point on the side of the ball. And again, keep the balls in opposition of each other. And now you can try to point above the ball. So you're pointing down at it. Which again, if you can't go fast at first, which is totally like me when I started, you can just go really slow and say, okay, what's the technique of that? I have to throw and point over top of it and get back in time, and then start to try to put that in a rhythm. And then again, at your own speed, let's work out a combination of those. And let's do all the pointing we've done so far. So we have pointing up, to the side, and on top. So up, side, top, up, side, top, top. And again, you can go really slow. First this side, it's the up, and then it was to the side. And after that, I'm ready for the on top. And then the next hand is up again, etc. As you can figure it out. And then try to get up to speed. Okay, good. And now what we're going to do is we're going to keep with the pointing idea. We're just going to point across to where the other ball used to be. So this ball was here, and after I throw this ball, I'm going to point to where that one used to be. So we have just pointing across. Go ahead and try that out as you're juggling. So this is the same thing that we had when we were doing with one ball. We did this mouth, ears, and eyes thing. And in this way, we don't really talk about, remember I had said before where I'm really concerned with juggling. And juggling is always usually viewed through this idea of performing. And that we're always performing, and what is the theater of juggling? What is the character of juggling? What's the musicality of juggling, etc. And I like to separate out the technique from performance all the time. Because I think there's a lot of valuable things we can discover inside of technique on its own that we can put back into performing later on. But as we noticed, especially this kind of work with our body, we were talking earlier about our focus, remember, with our eyes, that we were looking the different way of the ball. We had the ball going one way and the head going the other way. And that this is very unusual, theatrically, that the ball and the head are going opposite directions. And that our focus is very powerful theatrically. It's the same thing as before, when we had the hand and the ears and the eyes, we start to build some sort of theatrical meaning, just with our movements of our body, because that's how we are as humans. We recognize certain patterns, and we start to put meaning on top of things. So for now, this kind of body work, it can also be very powerful in terms of the theatrics of what juggling is. Let's just do another really little example of that. Instead of the mouth and the ears and the eyes, we can do this one where we're pointing. For example, let's say one hand is always going to point to where the ball was, and then after this hand points, you're going to try to grab that ball. So we have so one hand is pointing to where the ball was, and then the other hand, that ball's there. The ball's going in opposition, but this hand goes and tries to grab it, but of course misses because we're doing it in opposition. So go ahead and try that out. So we have a point and a grab with the pattern. And again, you can be as accurate as you want. So the reason I mention this is because I think you'll agree with me. You hear a lot of talk about a juggler, especially a performance, where they talk about the character. Say, oh, the juggler's character was so nice, it was so funny. The juggler had a really nice character. And what do you mean by character? Normally, I think 99% of the times what they're talking about is the theater of the piece. They're not talking about the juggling. So they say, oh, what a nice juggler. He was really funny. Or, she moved really strangely. But that's not talking about the juggling, that's talking about the character of the theatricality of the moment. And normally, they're not talking about the theatricality of the juggling. They're talking about whatever, the music, the soundtrack, the lighting, the makeup, the story, the speaking, or whatever else is going on. And the juggling is the same as ever. I mean, how many performances of juggling have you seen where people just do the same juggling, and it's different lighting, it's different music, it's different costume, then they're going to make a new show. Oh, what's the show about? Okay, well the show's going to be I wear all black and there's no lighting and there's no music and then I do the same juggling. I'm going to make a new show, and then it's all white, but the juggling is this. The juggling normally doesn't change. Or maybe we can say that the juggling does change. Maybe the juggling does some crazy throw, but the juggling has no meaning or no connection to the character or the theatricality. It's just two things combined at the same time. You have the theatricality, that's one thing, you have the juggling, that's another thing, and they're just put together at the same time for no other reason than because that's what the person wanted to do. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and lots of times it's very powerful, sure, very effective, maybe even very commercial, that's fine. But what I'm trying to say now is, inside of this work, where we start to separate out the parts of juggling, objects, body, and rhythm, we start to have the chance where ideas such as this thing of character can start to be from the juggling technique. I'm not saying that this pointing thing has anything to do with juggling. I'm not saying pointing is juggling, but I'm saying I'm using the rhythm, at least inside of juggling, to try to have some connection between what I'm doing. At least I have a rhythmical connection and a spatial connection. We have those different relationships of object-to-object relationship, object-to-environment relationship, object-to-body relationship, and our subcategories of the parts of juggling. In this way, when we start to talk about juggling and character and performing, this is a very, very, very small step, a very small example of that. We can start to build concrete images, or I'm trying to grab all the balls. I don't know. It's a very unintelligent example, but I think it's very concrete. And sure, in the end, this pointing, maybe it's not relevant to anything, but who are you then? What is your character? And what can that movement give you? And how can that movement be actually connected to the juggling? And how can the juggling start to have some sort of theatrical character on its own and have it be valid that you're going to put it inside the performance? Because a lot of times you have to ask yourself, why are they juggling? And if it's just to express some sort of character, normally the juggling gets in the way, because as we've seen, juggling technique is very hard to do. So it's really hard to express through juggling technique. But juggling technique can be broken down. We can use the body inside of the technique to start to express more concrete theatrical ideas. So let's keep going. Let's do a couple other things, a couple other moves we did with one ball, and put them in the two balls. So we started to have this pointing thing. We had a little bit of concrete, theatricality with a stupid little storyline. Maybe it's even better that you're starting to point up. So if you point up, you go grab that ball. Okay, grab that ball. I don't know. It's your street show. There you go. You're gonna make a lot of money on the street with that trick. So, but coming back, we do have these any other movement is possible. And let's see. So with one ball, we started to do. We have the covering the eyes. Let's try this one, where we're just covering the eye on the same side, and keep the rhythm of the balls is really important. Just because technically that was our concept. And then start to try to cover the opposite eye. And again, we're playing with our focus. So you can start to try to look at the palm of your hand. Remember we did that in one way. So try to look at the palm of the hand, keep the rhythm. So after you throw the ball, really try to see the palm. Try to see the lines on your hands. And try to keep the rhythm steady. And again, this is one of those moments where it's probably even easier to do this just shutting your eyes, because then you lose all that extra visual information that's hard to sort out. So instead of looking at the palm, look at the ball when you catch it. So we're just looking at the other hand now. So try to see the ball in your palm and try to keep the rhythm. This is really hard to go slow, or really easier to go slow now, but try to keep the balls going up, 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 and still see the ball in your palm. It's not there very long. Good, and now we're just going to take some movements of the arms that are a bit bigger than what we've been doing. So the first thing we can do is the arms are going to go straight to the side. And so in this movement, again, we don't have to go fast at the start. Start to understand that the throw goes up and then the arm goes out straight and comes back. So we're not doing a, it's not one of these things. It's a throw, out, and end. And just keep in mind that the out is here, so the out is not. It's here with the elbow straight. So we just have a straight arm to the side. So then we have these straight out to the side. Go ahead and try that. You can just follow along. Make sure you have enough room. Cool. And then we're going to do arms up if you can. Again, you can go slow. Okay. And then we're going to go down, straight down. And this down one, again, it's not something we do much in juggling, right? Technically, we don't normally ever put our arms straight down. It's not a technical thing that we encounter much, because most of our time is spent here. So we're here, we're going to try to put the arms straight down, really make it straight. Try one more time that the arms are really straight. And find your rhythm and find the space in the pattern. And let's do one more. Let's do the next one. It's also very unusual that we don't do. It's the arm straight in front. So we keep the object close to us, but the arm's going to go far in front. And again, if you do this slow, you can keep the object here, and the arm's going to go very much farther than that. It comes back and meets. So we have the in front. And with all these movements, if it's too fast for you to get your arm straight, just throw higher. Because you remember on a basic pattern, if you throw higher, you go slower. So you have more time. So if this is too fast to go low, just throw a little higher, you have more time to put your arm straight. And let's take the last one. Let's just go across then. So we have this idea of straight up and across. And again, this is not a type of movement we normally do with juggling. So the last thing we'll do before we change and go on is we're just going to take a combination of those 5 movements. So we're going to start and go to the side, and then up, down, in front, and then across. And you can just follow along with me now. And I'll go slow and we can speed up as you want. So we're going to go to the side, and on the other side go up, and then down, in front, across. Side, up, down, in front, across. So on your own time, we're going to go side, up, down, in front, across. Yeah? It's pretty easy to figure out if you go slow. I understand going fast is harder because then you don't really have time to think. But if you go slow, it's just all the directions of the arm. You go to the side, up, down, in front, across. So in this way, the juggling is not changing. We have the juggling just going up and down all the time, and the body is moving around the juggling. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start to change the rhythm of what we're doing. So we're not going to change the pattern of the balls, but we're going to change the rhythm. Okay, so the last one we had was on the right, I had this one, and something on the left we had was yours. Oh yeah, so it's the under the leg without lifting the leg. So again, we want to try to do same time up and same time down. So we have that. this way, it's kind of funny. It's kind of the same as the first one we had, right? Where the first one was a simple version of this, which the hand was just lifting to the head, and this other hand was just throwing straight up and down. So we have this one. It's the exact same timing, the same move. We just have to have a longer travel path, a longer way to carry the ball down here, but also behind the head. So we have together that preparation, and the balls go up together, and then down together. Alright, so we can really start at the same time, and stop at the same time. So far, we were just taking the balls up and down in a steady rhythm, and the rule was that the balls were in opposition to each other. And then underneath this pattern, we could move and do the hands down, or high fives, or pointing, or whatever we wanted to do. But now we're going to keep the same pattern in the way that the ball just goes straight up and down and doesn't change sides. So each ball stays back to the same place where it started. But now I'm going to change the rhythm. So we keep these same lines. And so far the rhythm was imposed internally from us and saying that we wanted to keep them opposite each other. But now I'm going to take a new rhythm. We're going to start with whichever hand you like, and that hand's going to do a throw that we've done already. When we were working on the first round of the rhythm idea, the rhythm concept, we had a throw at one point where we counted to 4, and the ball stayed in the same hand. So it went 1, 2, 3, 4, if you remember. Then we put on some extra, we filled out the beats in different ways, however we wanted to do. And now we're going to keep that same throw, so the ball, again, is just going straight up and down, just like we had, right? But now I'm changing the rhythm of it. I'm going to throw it high and say, I'm going to count to 4. The throw is number 1, and the catch is, I'm going to count 4, so I go 1, 2, 3, 4. And I try to keep it in time. And if I'm not in time, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, then I have to count faster, right? It has to be on the catch, I have to say 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there, at my counting speed, I was a little bit slow, so you can see I bend my legs, I go down a little bit. And I catch on 4, so I'm always on time. But the ball doesn't cross, it stays in the same hand. The other side, I'm going to count to 4 as well, but this time the throw is going to be on 2, I'm going to catch on 3. So in that way, the throw is going to be quite low. I'm going to count to 4 at the same speed I did when I threw the other ball. So this ball, again, the first side was maybe something like this, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can keep the same speed, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to throw 2 and 3. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, if that makes any sense. So let's just start off with the high ball, just on its own, without the other ball, and you're just going to count to 4, make sure you can count to 4 good. And you can do that to your own speed, to your own height, and just count inside your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Depending on how high you throw, it's how fast you will count. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. And now, keeping that same speed that you found, that you liked, take the other hand, that's going to do the low throw, and it's going to go on 2 and 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's really a low throw. It's really low. The natural tendency is to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I threw too high. So really keep it low. 1, 2, 3. It can be really low. Again, I keep the speed of the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So just look at the low ball for a second. Count inside your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, throw, catch, 4. 1, throw, catch, 4. And it's always in the right timing. So now what we can do is just combine them. It means, of course, the techniques are going to be separated out, and that each ball is thrown at a different time, and each ball is caught at a different time from each other. So with my counting, I'm going to go 1, and then 2, and then I'm going to catch in the opposite order of that. I'm going to catch 3, and then 4. Right? So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And everything's in time. So go ahead and try that out. 1, 2, 3, 4. I do throw, throw, catch, catch. But the throws and catches come out in the opposite order that I started in. So if I go left, right, then I'm going to catch right, left. If I throw right, left, I'm going to catch left, right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. And of course, what you can do is later on, if you want to try on the other side as well, that's fine. For now, we're just going to do one side just to move along quickly. But of course, you could do the high throw on the one side, and then of course you do it on the other side. in rhythm. But for now, what we can do, that we have this rhythm established. And again, you'll notice, and I keep repeating, but I think it's good to say again, that the balls don't change sides. It's the exact same pattern we were just doing, only now we just have a different rhythm on top of it. So now what we can do is, let's take the 2-3 ball, 2-3, and let's do one of the throws we did from our warm-up. Because the rule in our warm-up was that the ball starts and ends in the same place, right? So if I started my right hand, I do some sort of throw. We had something like this at one point, then it comes back to the right hand. We can now do that inside of our pattern, we just have to do it in rhythm. So the first thing to do is pick which throw you want to do, and let's say for now, let's say I want to do this one. It's one I remember from the warm-up that we did. Now I just have to count that in rhythm and make sure I do it in rhythm. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the same rhythm as before. And then I can try to add it into my high throw. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's going to work out with the rhythm. But the first thing to do is to remember one of the throws you want to try. So go ahead and pick one that you like. Pick any of the one ball throws that you wanted to do. We have lots of different ones. Here. We have things like this. And once you pick that throw that you like, then we're just going to count to 4 and put it on the 2 and the 3. So try that as well. So once you pick your throw, try to put it on the rhythm 2, 3. Great. And so now try it with the high ball. So that you're going to do all the counts in rhythm 1, 2, 3, 4. And you're going to keep that low ball on the correct tempo. So try that out. So one thing to notice is that when you practice the throw, the low throw, the new throw, without the high throw, it's really easy to count 1, 2, 3, 4. But then when we do with the other ball, it always comes out a little bit late because our tendency is, first of all, that when I count without the high ball, I count a little bit slower than I should, right? So it's really easy for me to go 1, 2, 3, 4. But if I count 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit late. So you have to count to the same speed when you practice. And at the same time, you just have to be aware that when you're doing the juggling with both balls, that the balls come down one at a time in beat. It's very easy to go and to keep the balls kind of the catches are a little bit too close together in terms of timing. So you really want to make sure that you keep, when you do the trick with both balls, that body throw, for example, if I'm doing a body throw, it's not too high. It doesn't turn out to be too high in the end when I do it with both balls. I really want to keep that throw low so it's on the rhythm. So try one more time your new throw, and try to make it on the beat. And don't make the throw too high. And don't count too slow. You make sure the catches go in sequence. That's good rhythm. Yeah, that's better. That's too close. So it means you have to count faster. It means your low ball has to be faster. And so now, pick one of the low throws that you like. I mean, take one that works really good. So if you don't have one now that is your favorite, make one a favorite. Is it okay? Try one more time. Go one more time with the juggling and see if you pick one you like. I'm going to stick with this one, I think. But pick one that you like. You try this out a few times and you start to see, okay, this body throw I can do easier than one of the others. It can also be one of the placements we did. Just has to be in rhythm. We had an arm bounce. So 1, 2, 2, 3, 2 and 3. Cool. So once you have one that you like, we're going to keep that one. So don't change that now. We're just going to change the rhythm again. We're going to change the rhythm one more time. We started off with this rhythm. Then we changed it to this rhythm. And now we're going to go from 4 beats to 3 beats. It means before I was counting the high ball, of course, again, up to 4. But now this pattern is going to be counted in 3. And for now, the balls do not change sides. They only go up and down, but they're going to go up together at the same time. And we had this a little bit in the warm-up earlier today, right? So the balls are going to go up at the same time, but they're going to go to different heights, and they're going to come down in rhythm. So the up is going to be 1. Go 1, 2, 3. So they go up together on count 1, and then they're going to come down 2, 3 in rhythm. So we have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So you can try that out. 1, 2, 3. We still have a high ball and a low ball. They don't change sides. But instead of 4 beats, we're changing it to 3 beats. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we can still go back to that one ball, the low ball trick that we liked. For example, I have this one. We just know that this ball is being thrown on 1 and caught on 2, right? When I do it with the high ball, it goes 1, 2, 3. So without the high ball, it just goes 1, 2. But I can do the same practice again and make sure that my trick fits the timing. I can go 1, 2. And then I can do it with the high throw, and I can go 1, 2, 3, and make sure it fits. So try out your low throw, first of all, on 1 and 2, whichever one it is, whatever you want it to do. And then once you figure out the count 1 and 2, go ahead and add the high ball if you haven't already. And just make sure it comes down in rhythm. Great. And the last thing we're going to do with this then is we're going to keep the rhythm the same. So remember, we started here with this rhythm, then we changed to this rhythm, and then we changed to this rhythm. And all the time now, we can do this extra throw, whichever one you wanted to do. It will fit inside the rhythm. And now we're going to keep the same rhythm, and we're going to keep the same pathway of the balls in terms of we can do the new throw, or whichever throw you have. But the only thing we're going to do that's going to be a change is we're going to take the high ball and cross it. So before, we had this pattern where the balls were just going straight up and down, and they didn't go to the other hand. They went back to where they started. Now we're going to keep the rhythm 1, 2, 3. We're just going to cross the high ball and keep the same rhythm. So the rhythm goes 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, like that. But then keep that new trick that you were doing with the low ball. Keep it in rhythm and in time. So mine was 1, 2. So I'm going to do like this with the new crossing high ball. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And then 2 balls end up in one hand. So go ahead and try that with your own trick. And now it's really important that the catches come down in the right time. Because this high ball is crossing, it means both balls are going to be caught by one hand. And it means that if you start to throw them to the wrong heights, the catches come off time, which is going to be a problem for what we're going to do next. So you really have to keep the low ball low and the high ball high, even though you're going to do some sort of different throw. Let's say you're doing a body throw or a placement or whatever. Again, mine, I have the around the arm. But if you do let's say a different body throw that takes even more time, you still have to do it in rhythm. 1, 2, 3. It means I raise the high ball, so I have enough time to move my arm all the way there and then catch in time. Because what we're going to do next is we need to have everything on the beat. And it's really hard if it goes, and I have to rush that catch there. It's going to be hard what we're going to do next. So one more time, make sure you're in rhythm with your throws, and then we'll move on. Just make sure you have a good 1, 2, 3, and then we'll do the next part. Yeah, that's great. So Super. So let's take one more ball each, so we have 3 balls. With 3 balls, we're going to do the exact same thing we just did with 2 balls. So we had the high ball crossing, and the low ball was doing whatever move you wanted to do. We had this 3-beat rhythm, the 1, 2, 3. So the first thing we can do is, without the extra throw for now, the extra trick, I mean, we can just go back and put the low ball straight up and down, and high ball crossing. If you've never done this before, we can take our 3-beat rhythm of 1, 2, 3 with the high ball crossing, and we can turn this into a 3-ball pattern very easily. And what we're going to do is we're going to loop that rhythm. It's something I talked about earlier, where we have a 3-beat pattern, and I want to loop it. It means I can cut one of the beats and overlap it. So if I have a 3-beat pattern and a 3-beat pattern, the way I can loop it is if I just overlap that. In one way I kind of cut one of the beats out, because I just loop it again and start from the beginning. So in one way, we're going from a 3-beat pattern to a 2-beat pattern. So when we have 3 balls, normally if I don't keep going, I can count to 3. I go 1, 2, 3. But now if I only count to 2, I can just keep going again and again, and it will repeat. It goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And we can do that really slowly if we just keep doing 3-beat patterns and then eventually cut that beat. So the first thing we can do is take your balls, and with the hand that has 2 balls, you're going to have a high ball crossing. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then you're here. So do that. We do one round through, and then just do the other side now. The same thing, high ball crossing from the hand that has 2 balls. We do 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And if you can, when you want, instead of counting to 3, after you say 2, then you just start again with 1. It means you go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we have a synchronous side swap now. But go ahead and figure that out if you haven't done that already before. Great. And now we can go back to one of those throws that we did in the warm-up in the circle when we were adding moves to the sequence. And again, my example was this. So now I can still keep that. Before with 2 balls, I went 1, 2, 3. But now I don't have to stop. I can only count to 2, and then just keep looping and repeating the pattern. So I have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, for example. And just everything's in rhythm. And again, it's just we have to pay attention to that new throw that is on the beat, that is 1, 2, or it's 1, 2, or 1, 2, whatever it is. And then it can repeat on both sides in rhythm. So go ahead and try that out with whichever trick that you tried. On your low throw, high ball crossing, go ahead and try it. And 2 rhythm. Let's go back to this basic pattern that we're doing now with 3 balls. This 2-beat pattern, this 2-count pattern, this 1, 2, 1, 2. And if you do it with me, in whatever speed you want to, start to do it lower and lower and see what happens. So keep the timing if you can, and just do it really low. And then just keep going as low as you can. And eventually it turns into a cascade, right? I mean, eventually it's so low, we could say, that we're not seeing that extra throw. And what's kind of crazy about this is, once you understand that we're going from a synchronous pattern that has 2 beats, it has 2 different parts to it. It has the 1, 2. The throw is the 1 and the catch is the 2 before it starts again. It means this 2-beat pattern, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, eventually turns into the cascade. Do you agree? So it means that every pattern in our whole lives, which we thought was asynchronous, because we think that the cascade is asynchronous, and we think that when we're doing the cascade, only one hand is throwing at the time. It means first the left hand, then the right, just one ball at a time. But it means actually, if you agree that this pattern, which is synchronous, where both hands throw at the same time, and if we just do that pattern low enough, and eventually we do it so low that the extra little throw is so low that we don't really see it, but you understand that it's there, then in that way, every single asynchronous pattern you've ever done in your life is actually synchronous. And that's pretty cool, because it means that if you understand that, you can eventually start backwards and say, okay, I start with my cascade, and my cascade is asynchronous, so can I find a synchronous pattern inside of it? And there's a really easy way to do that is you can just start to raise it higher and higher. And once you start to raise it up higher, you start to see with the rhythm inside of it that there is actually a synchronous pattern inside of it. And we're turning what we thought was a 1-beat pattern, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Actually, we start to find the space in it. We start to find the room of what's there in terms of rhythm. And then it turns into a 2-beat pattern. We just raise it up. And this way we have this synchronous cascade. We exaggerate or reverse cascade. So let's go back to what we were doing before with the 3-beat pattern, which was the 1, 2, 3, and then we crossed the high ball. We had 1, 2, 3. But now let's cross the low ball. So we can put down a ball and just have 2 for a second. We'll go back to 3 really quickly. And we're going to keep the counts 1, 2, 3, but now the high ball will go straight up and down, and the low ball will cross. So we'll end up with 2 balls on the other side. We're going to go 1, 2, 3 in the same rhythm. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Good. Yeah, perfect. So then let's take the 3rd ball already now, because you understand that. And now the hand that has 2 balls is going to be the hand that crosses again, but it's going to be the low throw. So we keep the same rhythm as before with 2 balls, and we have 1, 2, 3, and then do the other side. So go ahead and try. And you can stop in between. We're still counting the 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And now, instead of counting to 3, count to 2. So we're going to overlap those beginning beats there. And we're going to loop the sequence. And it means that we're going to have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then the pattern will repeat. So try that out in rhythm. 1, 2, 1, 2. Both balls go up together synchronously, but then the low ball, of course, is caught before the high ball. So 1, 2. So the throws, both throws, we count as 1, and the catch of the low ball we're going to count as 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Good. And now take this pattern and do it as low as you can. Alright, so start off at your normal height, and then start to do it lower and lower, and let's see what happens, okay? Go ahead and try that out. Yeah, then we more or less get the 3-ball box, right? And if we start from the box, and we go up, and we start to find the different space in the pattern. And there's 2 things I take away from this, which is the first I have a lot of tricks in my life that I first started out learning. Right? So at some point, pretty early on, somebody taught me the box. And I thought the box was pretty cool. But then I never thought that the box could be anything else than that. I never thought, oh, maybe there's some more space, there's some more rhythm inside the pattern. What if I happened to raise up the whole pattern in height, or if I played with the rhythm of it? I could have gotten something very different, right? At a very much earlier age than I understood. Because from here, if I would have started to figure it out and started to say, oh, okay, that's kind of the same thing, actually, in terms of the rhythm and the mechanics of what's happening. But the rhythm then gets pulled apart and it changed a little bit. Then perhaps I could have gotten to, can I have 2 balls? So for example, we have inside of that, the 1-2 count we were doing now, we have these 5-ball synchronous sight swaps, right? And in one way this is related to the 3-ball box. But I did the 3-ball box a lot earlier than I ever understood what that pattern was with 5 balls. So that's one thing I like to think about a lot. What patterns do I already have in my life? And what can I get out of them that I didn't notice was there before? Because I thought, okay, 3-ball box, we're done. Or I thought, oh, 3-ball cascade. Well, it's asynchronous, so nothing to do about that. But then, of course, you start to figure out and say, wow, everything that's asynchronous is actually synchronous. I just have to find it. And suddenly, the tricks that I already learned already contain a lot more tricks that it is. That's the first thing I think about. The second thing I think about is the journey of how we got to where we are right now. So we started off with 2 balls, and I started to think about the easiest thing I could do. The easiest thing was this, up and down. They didn't even change sides. And then I just put a rhythm on top of it. I had this rule that I wanted them to be opposite. But that was just arbitrary. I could pick whatever I wanted to do, because the technique is so simple. Then I changed the rhythm, then I changed the rhythm, then I kept the rhythm and changed something else, so then I made one cross, etc. So I had a very concrete path, a very clear journey forward from a very, very simple starting place. And I come up with something, for example, that 5-ball pattern. In one way, you could trace it very concretely from me doing 2 balls up and down, that you could get to this 5-ball synchronous sight swap in a different way than using sight swap or using some sort of other, more traditional method. It's just a little bit opening our minds that we're not so limited by what we think our technique is. Technique is not that far away. Complicated technique is not a mystery. It comes from very simple building blocks of just going up and down with this rhythm. I change the rhythm a little bit. I change one little thing at a time, and suddenly we have a whole new pattern. So let's look at that in 1 or 2 more ways just to see how powerful that idea is. And for that, we're just going to use 2 balls again. With 2 balls going up and down, which we had this pattern we started with working with the body. And now we're starting to see how we can change that to find different places to go with the technique and how we can develop ideas. And that way, in our warm-up, we had a lot of 2-ball tricks earlier on together. When we were standing in the circle, we had a bunch of 2-ball ideas. And how can we start to translate those into further ideas, either with 2 balls or more balls or different objects or different kinds of concepts with what we want to do. So let's go back. We already saw that when we were doing this pattern, we could start to change the rhythm in different ways, and that would lead us to different places. So let's go back and see what else we can change besides the rhythm. Let's stick with the exact same pattern we were doing of this, but now let's just change something else. We're just going to cross our arms. This is the exact same pattern of this, but with crossed arms. Okay, so go ahead and try that out. So we can just do crossed arms, the ball is going up and down. And for now, let's not change the rhythm. We're going to focus on this crossed arm change. And for the moment, I think I mentioned before that I spent about 1 year of my life trying to figure out if my arms should be crossed like this or if they should be crossed like this. And actually, I have to say, it was really productive. I got hundreds of tricks out of that year just thinking about this idea. But for now, let's just see, is there any difference for you if we do this pattern here with our arms crossed like this, or is it different if you do your arms crossed like this? So go ahead and try that out. You can try out both ways and see if there's any difference. And I don't know about you, but I don't find any difference. it's the same for me on both sides. I don't find one way different than the other for any sort of physical reason or juggling reason. It's the same. It means then you can change between them equally, and it doesn't matter, right? If the pattern is the same here as the pattern is here, then I can do it either way, right? And that way we can find a change to that. And so for now we're going to say the change is going to be that after the hand that's on top throws, it's just going to move to the bottom. Right? So that can be our change to start with. So this hand here, my right hand, is on top of my left hand. And after I throw that ball up, I can move it underneath the left hand. And the pattern won't change, because we already said that it's the same on either side, right? So here again we have that the hand on top can change. I don't even have to change the rhythm, because we're not going to play with the rhythm yet. So we keep the rhythm the same, and the hand on top just moves down underneath. So go ahead and try that and see if you figure that out. So we have hand on top moves to the bottom without changing the rhythm. And once you figure that out, then we can start to change as much as we want. And so for now, let's just change every single throw. It means every time there's a hand on top, you're going to throw and move it underneath. And that's just going to happen again and again. And this is the pattern now without the rhythm we had established earlier. If you remember our rhythm, we wanted the balls to be opposite each other from earlier on. We were starting with this very basic pattern. The same pattern where we started before we changed the rhythm in different ways like that. So we keep this pattern. Now every throw is going to drop down. So then we just keep the... So go ahead and try to figure that out. So up, up, up. And each time, you're catching the ball under the other arm. So let's take this pattern as a starting point. And let's say we want to turn this 2-ball figure, which again I'm doing very slow now. I'm going to change this 2-ball figure into a 3-ball juggling trick. So how can we translate an idea with a lower number of objects into a higher number of objects? This is going to be a little bit of some ideas about that. And let's take this 2-ball trick and try to do it with 3 balls. So the first thing, of course, is to take 3 balls. So you have your third object. And for me, at least funny enough, I think the first thing I try to do when I have 3 balls is I try to get rid of the third ball. Because if I can get rid of the third ball somehow, it means I can just do my 2-ball trick. I don't have to care about the third ball. So this is really stupid as a starting point. But again, we had this warm-up earlier when we were working on these ideas that we have now. And we took a combination of throws from one hand and the other hand and tried to put them together at the same time. And it was random. And sometimes it was stupid, but sometimes it was good. But it was a starting point, and I always had some place to go forward. I never had to stop and think and be lost. I never had to stop and say, oh, what should I do with my left hand? I could just count around the circle. Oh, what did you do with your left hand? And then somebody tells me, it's so nice. I don't have to think. I have to suffer sometimes when I have to do like a really crazy catch. But suffering in that way is a lot different than some sort of mental problem where you're stuck or you're blocked and you don't know what you're going to do. It's the same thing now. I have a 2-ball trick. I want to turn it into a 3-ball trick. The first thing I want to do is get rid of the third ball. And the first thing I'm going to try, whether it's stupid or not, is just to get rid of the ball. The easiest way to do that is a high throw. Right? That's the first thing we can do. So you can try it out right now. There's no right or wrong way to do this. We can just take, again, you want to take your default juggler in mind. You can start with this, if it makes you happy. Or you can start from here, and you can do a high throw, and then as the third ball is gone, try to do the 2-ball trick. So go ahead and try it. There's no right or wrong way. At this point in the process, you can say to yourself, okay, is my idea good? So do I like this idea? And it's just a matter of technical practice. Because then you can be done. You can say, yeah, I like that idea. I like this 2-ball trick. And for me, when I try to do it with 3 balls, and I do a high throw, and then I try to do that 2-ball trick really fast and catch the ball, for me, I'm done. I'm happy, and we can move on. No, that's cool, no problem. If you're not happy with that, what else can you do next? So here's some methods that we can move forward in different ways as well, if you're not already happy. Personally, for me, when I do the high throw, and I try to do the 2-ball trick really fast, I don't think it's so nice. Because one thing I like when I do the 2-ball trick that I notice now, only looking backwards when I had 3 balls, I noticed that, oh, I really like that it keeps going. I think it's kind of nice how it keeps going the same all the time. It doesn't have to stop. And when I do the high throw, I have to stop at some point, right? I have the high throw, and then I try to do this really fast, and then I have to stop and catch the high throw. So it kind of stops me. I don't like that. So the next thing we can do is we can say, a high throw is only a way to eliminate the ball. We call it an elimination trick, basically. If you have some objects, you're just going to throw some objects away up into the air, and you have extra time to do something with the other objects left over. It's called an elimination trick. You're eliminating some of the objects. Well, there's different ways to eliminate a ball. Besides doing a high throw, we can do a placement, right? Because we know that side swap means that it's not just about the technique of a throw, or a catch, or a roll, or a bounce, or a hit. It's the timing, it's the relationship of all the objects. So I can do a really high throw by doing, for example, a placement here on my shoulder and neck. And then I can do my 2-ball trick. I can try it like that. So go ahead and try that. Try a placement as a high throw, or a way to eliminate that object. And then try to do the 2-ball trick at the same time. Right, so now, again, at this point in the process, you can be happy and you can be done. You can say, oh, you know what? I take my 3 balls, I put a ball here, and then I go like this, and I think it's awesome, and I'm super happy, and that's my new 3-ball trick. And I'm going to be done, I'm going to go home. Right? Again, for me, personally, when I put the ball here, and then I do the 2-ball trick, yes, in one way I'm technically using 3 balls, but it's what we talked about with the MRL stuff, the Manipulation Research Laboratory idea, about the ratio of how much I use each ball. And that way I am just taking the 3rd ball and throwing it away, basically, and then doing something with 2 balls. That's way more interesting, or at least has a lot more action. So my original goal was, I want to take my 2-ball trick here, and turn it into a 3-ball trick. And so for now, I just say personally, this doesn't really turn it into a 3-ball trick for me. It's still a 2-ball trick. There's 3 balls hanging out, but I'm really only using 2 balls. So I would really like to use 3 balls and do the same figure that I did with 2 balls. Again, how can we do that? So another great starting point, instead of thinking that, well, when I get 3 objects, I'm just going to get rid of one, is what we can do is look at the physical situation of what's happening. So the physicality of the pattern. So here I have 2 balls, and what's the physical characteristic that defines the pattern? It's the crossed arms, right? Because we started here before, where the balls were just going straight up and down. We kept that, but we crossed the arms. We noticed that the pattern's the same. It doesn't matter which hand's on top, so we can just move the hands all the time. So really, the defining characteristic of the pattern that we had changed from the beginning is crossed arms. So when I take 3 balls, I can say to myself, as a starting point, are there any 3-ball patterns that have crossed arms? Yes, there are. So what are some 3-ball patterns that have crossed arms?
Mills mess.
Mills mess. Yeah, good. Let's use that one. So does everybody kind of know Mills mess a little bit at least? You don't have to even know the whole pattern. It's no problem. But you notice there's crossed arms, and then there's crossed arms, and there's crossed arms. And in fact, it's kind of nice. The crossed arms in Mills mess, when you do the full pattern, first they're crossed this way, and then they are also crossed the other way. That's pretty cool. That relates to our basic pattern in a really clear way, right? So now, what we can do is we can take this idea of Mills mess, which is a 3-ball pattern, where we do have some crossed arms, and let's try to get rid of a 3rd ball instead of that pattern, right? So then, when you have this Mills mess, whenever your arms are crossed, try to do a high throw, and then we can try to go back into Mills mess, and see how that works. See how that feels. Great. And now, once we looked at that, we can start to evaluate again. Are we happy with where we're at? And inside of this, I find a couple of variations. The first one is that when I'm doing Mills Mess, again, I try to just get rid of a third ball when I'm in that position in my 2-ball pattern. So there's a couple of variations of that I found. The first one is that if I throw the ball high enough, if I have it away long enough, I can actually do 2 rounds of my 2-ball pattern before I go back into Mills Mess. It means here I'm doing Mills Mess, I do the high throw, 1, 2, and then I'm back into Mills Mess. And I can do it on the other side, and then it keeps going again and in Mills Mess. There was another way too, because at first I didn't throw exactly high enough to keep going back and forth on either side. Because my first time I tried to get rid of my 3rd ball, I didn't throw it as high. It means I only had time to drop down once. And then it kind of looped on one side of my Mills Mess. Right? Because after I drop down, oh, I'm Mills Mess, I'm crossing and uncrossing, it keeps on the same side again, like this. Whereas before, if I drop down twice, I'm back to the beginning, I can keep the Mills Mess going as it usually does. Well, again at this point, we can say, are we happy? Do we like this trick? Do I like the Mills Mess like this? Or do I like the Mills Mess where it's just stuck on one side? Yeah, maybe you do like it, and maybe you're done. Maybe you say, yeah, those tricks are worthwhile. There's something I want to keep in my life. I have use for them. And then that's where you took an interpretation of how to translate this 2-ball pattern into 3 balls, and you came up with a couple of tricks that fit inside Mills Mess. That's not bad, right? But again, maybe you want to keep going forward. For me, one of the qualities I identified earlier on, and I said that I liked, was that this pattern just kept going and going and going. So now, even I'm in Mills Mess, I find this more natural situation to do the high throw. I still can kind of barely just do a couple times of the pattern. I'm not so happy yet. So let's think a little bit more. We were working with a physical situation inside of 3 balls where we have crossed arms as a pattern, and we had Mills Mess. So the question remains, are there any other patterns with 3 balls where you have crossed arms? Yeah, crossed arm cascade, exactly. So crossed arm cascade or crossed arm reverse cascade, however you want to say. So let's try that. Let's try that as a pattern instead of Mills Mess, because now we can say that in Mills Mess, we only had the chance to do the 2-ball pattern a couple times, because Mills Mess is crossed there. I can do a high throw and kind of sneak it in, and then it's crossed there. But now we have crossed arm cascade, you suggested. It means we're crossed arm all the time. So maybe we have a chance to keep doing the pattern more and more. That's more like the rhythm of the original 2-ball pattern. It's the same game now. We're going to do the 3-ball cascade, the 3-ball reverse cascade with crossed arms, and just try to get rid of one of the balls, using probably a high throw for now. Because again, we could use a placement, but I thought that didn't really count as much as using all the objects in the same time, in the same pattern. So come back to your pattern here. Again, it doesn't matter if it's cascade or reverse cascade. And try to do a high throw and see what happens. And so again, what I noticed when I'm doing this is the same thing when I was in Mills Mess. I had the 2 options in one way. Then I do a high throw and I can get a couple of them in of the 2-ball pattern, and then I'm back to the same position, right? I do 1, 2, and I'm back with the same arm on top. Or I can be in this position, I can do a high throw and then drop down only 1 time, and then I'm on the other side, of course, with the other hand on top. But the good thing is, instead of like in Mills Mess, when I only dropped down 1 time, I had to kind of rewind the whole way back, because it was Mills Mess, it's a basic pattern. Now we do have the crossed arm cascade. It's a good idea. It means that when I just drop down once, I'm still there in that position. I can just do it again. So now we do have a new pattern, for example, that perhaps does repeat more than before, which would be the hand on top has 2 balls. And the hand on top is going to do 2 throws in a row. And the first ball is going to be a high ball crossing, and the second ball is just a low ball to the same hand. So I go high, low, and I'm back to the beginning. And in this way we have a 3-ball pattern that repeats like that. So go ahead and try that just from the beginning here, really simply. Hand on top has 2 balls. High ball crossing, but underneath that throw, we're going to do a little drop down to the same hand. So I do right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. Like that. So, the same place that we were at before. Now we have a new figure, we have a new trick. Do we like it? Are we done? Are we happy with what we did? And also we have to evaluate, is this idea that I'm doing now, is it a good concept that I just can't really do well yet? Or is it just a bad idea in general? Because sometimes you come up with a concept and you say, oh, so this could be a thing that I could do, but I have to learn it. And is my lack of technique making the idea bad, or is the idea just bad? Or making you not like it, right? And that's something we always have to work on and just realize and understand that, yeah, maybe this is a really good idea if I can just do it better. Because juggling takes a long time to learn. And now we're in an editing process of ideas, and not in terms of physical movement or skill. So we have this idea of this pattern now, where it does repeat all the time, right? So I do get to drop down kind of every, well, at least in a regular rhythm. But still, the dropping down is in 2 beats. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's a little bit slower than my original pattern, which was 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. My original 2-ball pattern was in 1 beat. The dropping down was happening every single time there was a beat of time happening. And now with my 3-ball pattern that I'm left with, it's taking 2 beats of time. So, I still personally wasn't satisfied. I still really wanted to find out how this was going to work with 3 balls to directly translate my 2-ball pattern into 3 balls with the rhythm, using all 3 balls and all the qualities that I liked about the 2-ball pattern. It means I had to be a little bit more flexible in my thinking. So, originally we had talked earlier in the warm-up when we were doing the circle game, we had this impossible throw, or impossible catch. We should catch here, we should catch here at the same time. And I talked a little bit about starting to have this idea that instead of having this arm not move and catching around it, I could start to maybe pass the arm around the ball in such a way that I could come and catch the other one. So I start to reinterpret the rules of what's happening. It means that we started with this pattern here, we crossed the arms, and then I said that the balls, because in the original pattern, the balls don't change hands, right? They just go straight up and down, and they come back to the same hand where they started. Then I crossed arms, I did the exact same pattern, where the balls don't change hands, they go straight up and down back to where they started from, and then I can start to change which hand is on top. So instead of looking at this pattern that I have now and saying that the balls are not changing hands, I can also start to define this pattern in a different way and say the balls are being caught under the other arm. So every single catch is being done under the other arm. And then I don't have to start to care anymore about where the ball starts from and where it ends in terms of the same hand or different hands. So now, if I start to think a little bit differently about my basic pattern and the quality of what makes my basic pattern special, then I can find a 3-ball trick that has the exact same quality. It means every single throw is changing which hand is on top, and every single throw is being caught underneath the other arm. The one thing that it does break in terms of my definition is now the ball's crossed from one hand to the other. But in that way I get a pattern that looks like this. And for me, that is the same pattern with 3 balls that we were working on with 2 balls. Because it has all the same qualities. every single throw is being caught underneath the other hand, but it's a 3-ball pattern. It means I'm using a 3-ball cascade or reverse cascade actually. So for me in the end of this whole process, I can say that the 3-ball version of this 2-ball pattern here, I have to be flexible in my thinking and reinterpret from saying that the balls don't change hands to the hands are changing from up and down every time, and they're being caught underneath the other arm every time, and then we can do that with 3 balls. And that 3-ball pattern, to try that, is we're going to do a pattern where the balls, instead of crossing like in a cascade to the other side, we're going to throw them backwards. Each ball gets thrown backwards, so I'm going to catch it underneath the other arm. And before I do that, I throw the other ball backwards. So you're just doing a cascade where the balls are throwing opposite what you normally do, and you're just reaching under and catching them. And in this way too, you can see that the rhythm of the pattern, before we talked a lot about dwell time, and clearly the pattern I was just juggling was not this, with a long dwell time. It's a very short dwell time, right? It's like this. The rhythm is this. It's because the movement of my hand from here all the way down again to the other side takes a long time. So I have to have as much time as I can where my hand is empty, so I have time to go down and catch that other ball. But go ahead and try it out. We're going to just do, you're going to throw straight up, straight up, straight up, and then move your hand underneath each time. So you can see from this process, we end up with a lot of tricks that we have to evaluate and judge for ourselves. Do we like them? Are we going to keep them? Are we going to practice them? Are we going to learn them? And what value do they have to where I'm actually trying to get to? And you don't just start at the first point and say, well, I threw the ball high, and then I crossed my arms and I tried to do it, and that was it. Well, it didn't work. New idea. There's a lot of different things to play with. We can play with rhythm. We can play with different ways to integrate the shape into what we're doing with the new prop. Maybe it's not the new number of props, maybe it's also a different type of prop, like a club or a ring, and we have a different sort of process with shape and rhythm there as well. So let's keep going with 2 more examples. And now we had already changed our basic pattern here. We changed the rhythm. We had also changed then this basic pattern with the crossed arms, so like a body shape. We keep the rhythm the same and the pattern the same, but we changed the shape of the body. And now, since that was useful, I thought, I got a lot of tricks out of that process, and I liked crossing the arms there. It was really productive for me, in my work at least. Then let's take this idea of crossed arms and start from there, and see where that leads us. We have the crossed arm position with 2 balls, which gave us a lot of tricks. So let's keep the crossed arm position and not care anymore about this idea that the balls go up and down in this pattern, they don't change hands, and there's this rhythm about having opposites. So we can keep crossed arms and then do a different pattern. So let's put a different pattern on top of crossed arms. For now, let's say we put a shower on top of that. A shower normally would say 2 balls that we have right now is one hand is throwing, and for now we can say one hand is giving. We have these 2 different types of throws. One ball is going really high, and the other is going really low. So we can try to do that with our crossed arms. We start to find different sorts of techniques for that. In this way, what we're going to do for now is we're going to say that, of course, one of the hands is going to throw high, and for now I'm going to say it's going to be the hand that's underneath because it has a lot more room to move to throw high. It means that after that ball gets thrown high, then this hand has to hand or give the other ball to the other hand. So of course you have 2 options. You could go like this as a give, right? So the hand on top is giving where both hands go up, or you could also try that both hands go down. And so for now I can say that the hand on the bottom is going to throw higher, and the hand on the top is going to give down. Let's try that. So let's try that with 1 ball even, just to understand that. then straight away we can take 2 balls. It's really easy. And it's going to be a synchronous throw and pattern. So we're going to have like this. So it's going to go like that. We're going to throw up and give at the same time. And turn both hands back up. Yeah, good. So now we have a 2-ball trick, a 2-ball figure, a 2-ball pattern. And I have to say I kind of like it. So again, I'm at the position I was before, where I was like this, right? And we had the whole process of how do we turn that trick into a trick with 3 balls. So now we have a trick that looks like this. And I can say, great, how do I turn that into a trick with 3 balls? Again, we have the same games we played before, where we could get rid of the ball, etc. I don't find that so useful. Sometimes it does work, and it's a great place to start, because if it does work, you are done. And then you've succeeded, and it's taken a very short time. It's great. But for this one, at least I didn't find something useful for that we can repeat now, together today. But let's go back and look at, instead of the rhythm, go back and look at the shape again. So we had this idea with 3 balls, where we said, oh, is there a 3-ball pattern where our arms are crossed? And then you said Mills Mess, and you said Cascade, and that's totally right. So now let's go back and say, is there, for example, a position where we're going to do a shower in 3 balls with the arms crossed? Could there be a pattern that goes like that? In this way, there are many patterns that go like that. There's lots of different side swaps where we can do a Mills Mess variation of them. Like you can take any sort of side swap. For example, 4-4-1 has a 1, has a give in it. And we can say in that way it's a shower for 1 beat. Because you do have a high throw, and you do have a giving underneath it in one way, let's just say, to interpret that and move the process along for now. So there could be lots of different patterns. We could say Mills Mess 4-4-1 would have crossed arms. And a really easier one we could say for now is 4-4-1-3 with a little bit of a Mills Mess put on top of it. And that way we do get a 4-4-1 situation where we can do this little piece of technique with our crossed arms. So let's just try that together. So let's take crossed arms, and we can do, for example, again, a side swap like 4-4-1-3, and we don't even have to Mills Mess with that stuff, because we can just keep crossed arms, and we can do 4-4-1, and come back into the cascade or reverse cascade. You go ahead and try that with me. Do 4-4-1, and on that moment of the 1, go ahead and try it. You can do the new technique. And if you do a 4-4-1-3, you can just keep repeating it because it's going to stay on the same side. We have this idea that the hand on top is giving the ball down. So when you do 4-4-1-3, it's going to keep that hand on top, giving the 1. Otherwise, we have to do a 4-4-1 Mills Mess. We're going to change which hand is on top or which hand is on the bottom. So is there another 3-ball pattern with crossed arms where you do a shower? Yes, there is. It's a 3-ball crossed arm shower. Okay, cool. So, yeah, so start with the most obvious thing, right? So in that way, again, we can just take our 2-ball trick and just do it exactly as we did with 2 balls, right? We have the 2-ball thing here. Well, it's a 2-ball shower. The pathway is clear. Let's just do it with 3 balls. So go ahead and try that out. You have to do a 3-ball shower and try to do the technique underneath. Yeah. Yeah, so in this process, it's kind of endless. I mean, at any point you just say, am I happy? And you can move on for whatever you're trying to do. And what I'm trying to do now is, with you guys, is show you a progression of how these things can evolve. And that technique and that creation of tricks, it's not a mystery. It's just a lot of work that you just have to do. It's very practical. And so we have these patterns like here, crossing the arms. We found some different things with that. We kept the crossed arms, and then we did a different pattern, we did a shower. So let's go back, let's keep the shower now. Like at any point, when we find something of value, we can kind of keep it and look at it from a different angle. So now we're working with a shower. We have this little piece of technique, this little downward movement of the handoff. And again, whether you like it or not, we had a 3-ball version of it. We had some variations of that, and there's a million more that we didn't do. But to move along and just show how this can work, let's take this idea of shower now and explore that. So let's get rid of the crossed arm part and just look at shower. And so now, for now, we can say that with a shower, we're throwing across with one hand. That's a higher throw, it's going across, and the other hand is giving underneath or just throwing a very, very low throw underneath that. So let's take the exact same movement of each hand, but instead of throwing this ball across like normal, let's throw it backwards, like we did earlier on with 3 balls when we were trying to interpret this pattern with 3 balls. Remember, when I turned the 3 balls, finally, in the end, I had to throw backwards so that I could catch it under the other arm all the time. So let's take our 2-ball shower here and just throw that first ball backwards and then catch it under the arm. Let's say that's our basic pattern for now. So like for 2 balls, we can just throw backwards and then catch underneath. And now this can be the pattern that we're looking at. Then we can say, okay, here's a 2-ball pattern, and I like it, and I want to do it with 3 balls. And again, how can we apply this? How can we take this a step further? So there's a lot of variations of this. Let's look at a few of them and what they mean. With 3 balls, again, we can skip all of the methods we've done before. I think those are clear. Let's look more about rhythm and what rhythm means. We can find inside of this combination of objects and ideas that we're trying to do with this 2-ball shower pattern where we throw backwards. We can eventually find a position that's like this, where I'm juggling 2 in one hand, and whenever I want, I can just do the 2-ball shower. And what that means is, if I just start from nothing, I'm going to do my 2-ball shower, which was, remember, the throw backwards. And as I go get that ball, my other hand is going to give, right? That's the other part of the shower, and I go and I grab there. But I throw backwards. As this hand moves over to get that one, I give this ball here, and I grab there. But I already have a ball in my hand. So when I give this ball, I just go back in the 2 in one hand, right? So on my way to grab that ball, I just give, and it goes to 2 in one hand. And if I don't keep juggling, I just give and catch it, okay? Or I can say give and I do 1 throw up. So with 3 balls, we have the backwards throw, and then I give. So it's really easy to start from nothing. Do a backwards throw, and give on the way to take it, to go into 2 in one hand. So first try that. And also, if it helps you to think about it like this, you can do 2 throws in a row. You can do the backwards throw, and you can do just a straight up and down throw. And underneath the straight up and down throw, you're going to give that ball. So I go 1, 2, come back to the beginning. 2 throws, and I touch the first one under the other arm. But eventually, you can start from 2 in one hand, and you just pick a ball that you want to, any ball, and you say, okay, that ball, you can even throw it a little bit higher if you need to identify it better for yourself. That ball I'm going to catch under the arm, and you just go grab it, and on the way, you give that ball, go back to 2 in one hand. Right? So see if you can figure that out from 2 in one hand. And eventually, when you have that technique down, you can start to play with the rhythm more. And you can start to say, okay, so I can do it, for example, every other one. Or you can try to do, of course, every one. So that's the true interpretation of that 2-ball shower. But in the same way, we have all these other variations. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or you can do then the 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So you can apply different rhythms to this technique now that you've discovered it. And as well, because it's a shower, and our base pattern was a two-ball shower, right? So we have this idea of two balls. Well, a shower can also go both directions. And if you start to apply those ideas to this on top of the rhythm, you can start to have different sides in different rhythms. Or if you do you can also do every one. So you have a box with this backwards throw idea as well. And all of these ideas come from, again, we're doing a two-ball shower. We had a basic starting point. We said, okay, throw backwards, catch underneath, and then trying to apply three balls for that concept. And inside of that process, we find a million tricks. And these are just two or three of those tricks we find. And it's a good example of how you can work with rhythm. In whichever way you like. And also because we're working with showers, again, just this idea that you can do it on both sides. And then once you understand that you can do both sides, then again you can start to play with the rhythm on that. Like that. So we went from two balls up and down, changing the rhythm, crossing the arms, keeping the crossed arms, changing the pattern to a shower, doing a little piece of technique on that, then keeping the shower, throwing backwards, doing a little piece on the shower. Let's do one last idea with the shower to start to see, again, how we can translate two-ball ideas into three-ball ideas, and eventually into whatever idea you'd like. We're going to do the last example of how to translate a two-ball trick into a three-ball trick, and using these ideas as a process that you can translate many pieces of technique into different concepts of how you want to for whatever you need, whatever you want to do. We were working with a shower, and in this way we have a two-ball shower. So before, again, we have the cross-arm shower and the backwards throw shower, however you want to call them. We have a two-ball shower. And let's take a look at a shower and say that a shower is two balls going around in a circle. And normally we think that this circle that they're going around on is the same circle, that each ball is on the same circle, that we have two balls on one circle. But what if we could take those circles that they're on and then pull them apart? And in that way say they're still doing a two-ball shower, but the circles are spread out, and they each have their own individual circle. And then in the normal shower, those circles are just happening to overlap. So for example, of course, now we have the two-ball shower on the one circle. And what I want to do is just pull those apart so those circles are side by side. Of course, later on, if you want, you can put those circles on top of each other. You can actually turn one circle however you want. It's no problem. For today, let's just look and see what happens that we reinterpret a two-ball shower as being two balls on one circle and saying that it's on one circle each. They just happen to overlap in the real world. So for that, we have ball number 1 and ball number 2. And here we have the circle, and here we have its own circle. But for each of these circles, we're still doing a shower. It means nothing else changes. And in a shower, we have one hand that's doing a high throw, and the other hand is throwing low underneath or giving the ball across. Yeah? And it's the same thing here. So the hands don't change their roles, don't change their jobs. The only thing we're changing about the shower is we're pulling apart those two circles. We don't have to change anything else. And in that way, we have a figure that looks like this. And I want to teach that to you now. So if you put down one ball, we just have two balls for now. And we can learn this basic two-ball pattern of the shower being pulled apart, and then we can try to do it with three balls. So the first thing we can do is just step by step. We can take this first ball and throw it straight up and give underneath. That can be the first step. Yeah, great. So we have that. And now what you want to do is, don't change that, but we're going to add to it. It means after I throw and give, I'm going to throw the first ball back. Right? So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So don't change that. And that looks perfect. So don't change that. But now the only thing you're going to do is add to that. You're going to do both those throws. So I throw up and I throw up. But I'm going to catch both of the balls in the other hand. So it looks like this. And that's the hard part, maybe. So you want to throw both balls up and catch in the other hand. So from the beginning, with straight up and down, and you give, no problem. Straight up and down, and then throw back, no problem. So So don't change those throws. Throw up, up. But the other hand goes and takes them. Perfect. Yeah, it looks good. Great. Now you'll notice one more step to do and then we're done. It means I have two balls in this hand. It's because I have one ball here and the last ball's coming down. So instead of catching it, we're just going to give it across back to the beginning. Because in our two-ball shower, we have two throws that go high and we have two throws that go across. So already from our simple example, the first thing we're going to do is one of the throws that go high, here, and one of the throws that go across, I have that. And the second thing we did was this second high throw. So I have throw up, yeah? And for now I'm catching them in this hand. So I just need to do the last across. It means when I go here, here, and then there, instead of catching that ball, it's coming down, I do it across, so I go like this. And that's all of the four throws. I have two throws up and two throws across. So try that again with me. We're just going to go up and across, up, catch, both in the same hand, and instead of in the same hand, give it back. And then just keep repeating that. And here, if I can trade for one of your balls. So now, if I just keep repeating that pattern, you can see with the color of balls what's happening. It means my left hand is always throwing the balls in the air, higher. My right hand is always giving across underneath. But the pink ball will stay over here on this side now, and the white ball will stay on this side. But each ball, if you look at it on its own, it's doing a shower, right? I just pulled apart the circles. So in one way, I have my white ball shower, it's over here, like this, like physically, I'm over here. And of course then, the pink ball is on the other side, and it's on the other side of my body. And that way, they stay where they want to be when I pull apart these two circles. So, the cool thing we can do is when we change this from 2 balls to 3 balls, is we can also take a 3-ball shower and we can pull it apart. And eventually we can say that a 3-ball shower can be pulled into 3 different circles, because there's 3 balls, they each have their own circle, they just happen to be overlapping. But for now, let's just pull apart 3 balls into 2 circles. So let's try to do a 3-ball shower. We have 3 balls all going on a circle, but then we say actually it's 2 circles that overlap, and for now we're going to pull them apart. So we're trying to do a 3-ball shower like this. I'm going to try to, we can see how that works. So the first thing to do is pick up your 3 balls and take the hand that has 2 balls. Remember, the hand that's throwing up in the air that's high, it's never going to change. We always keep that the same hand. And it's going to throw across 2 throws. Go 1, 2. That's really easy. Just do 2 throws of a shower. Exactly. Do it again. So now, don't change that. Don't change that at all. The only thing you're going to change is that the first ball is going to go up, and the next ball is going to go underneath it. Remember we talked about the relationship of objects to objects. Now, the balls kind of chase each other, right? They give underneath, the balls follow the exact same path. Now, I'm not going to change anything except the relationship of the second ball. So I throw up and under. The second ball goes under the first ball, but both balls go to the other side. And you're going to give underneath. That's it. You guys got it. Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. Super. So now that's the key to doing this. It means that there's a couple ways you can start off. If you want, you can do a normal shower, and whenever you feel like it, you can throw under the ball you just threw and keep doing the shower. Alright? I'm still doing a shower. Every ball from my right hand is going low. Every ball from my left hand is going high. And if it makes your life easier, that ball that I throw underneath, I can do it higher, right? So I can do my shower here. To give myself more time and space, I can throw higher and then throw underneath it. And then all you do is you can alternate that, every other one. And in this way we have a 3-ball shower that's going in 2 different circles. And if you trade me a ball again, you can start to see the path of one ball. So because it's a 3-ball trick, and we have 2 circles, the work is divided equally between the circles. It means first the white ball will be on one circle, and then after that it'll be on the other circle, and it will switch back and forth. So now it's on my left, and now it's on my right. Now it's on the left, now it's on my right. But still the same technique is happening. The left hand is throwing it high, and the right hand is throwing it low. So try that out with 3 balls. Again, you can start from nothing and just throw that first ball underneath already. And if you want, you can start from there. Go straight up, under, straight up, under. It's always shower. Or you can start with a normal shower and then pick one to throw underneath. And then just do that more regularly to get to the normal pattern. So go ahead and try that out. Yeah, that's great. You got it. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, right on. Cool. So again, eventually we can take this concept farther, and when you want to practice it, you can start to try to figure out and say, okay, I have my 2 circles with the 3 balls, but can I put the 3 balls, can I put the 3rd circle in there? And then stretch the entire figure out, the entire space out. And then that's the way I can try. You're just going to throw under each successive ball. So, and it's just how you want to interpret it. You can also start to interpret it, what does it mean to cross your arms, or to keep your arms parallel to each other like in a normal shower. And as well, another cool thing is it applies to other numbers of objects as well. So now we use 2 objects, we stretch it out, we have 3 objects on 2 circles, or 3 objects on 3 circles. You can do 4 objects on 2 circles, for example. Again, if you follow the white ball, it's switching circles back and forth because that's how I'm throwing them. Or I can choose to keep it only on one side and the others are switching over here. I could have 3 balls in this circle and 1 ball in this circle, etc. I could switch them. I could have 4 circles in a row. I could have 3 circles with 4 balls. I could have 2 circles with 5 balls, whatever. But in this way, it's something we can look at and say, okay, I have a 2-ball trick that I'm doing, which we had when we did a warm-up earlier, all together in the circle. We each did a throw. We tried to add them together. How does that work? And we have to start to interpret what are we trying to do. And say, okay, but I have this 2-ball trick now, and I like this 2-ball trick, but what is the 2-ball trick? Is it 2 balls on 1 circle, or can we start to say it's 2 balls on 2 circles, but they happen to overlap? And then we can pull those apart. There's a lot of different variations of how we can interpret what we're doing with 2 objects when we add a 3rd object in.